The whistle this week is the Shearwater Widebore D in aluminum alloy. Shearwater whistles are made by John Bushby, who currently lives in northern England, but he's originally from Tasmania, I understand. Now this whistle has a really bright, really loud sound, and that's why I like it. It can be a little challenging to play at times because the wide bore, while creating more volume and a bigger sound, it also creates a need for a little more air. I really have to practice with this whistle to nail down everything the way I'd like to, as opposed to some of the other whistles that you pick up and they don't require any extra effort. However, it's worth it for me with this whistle. So this is breaking from my usual habit of showing what I consider to be inexpensive whistles, in the sense that they are purchasable for under $25 or $35 US. This whistle I got from John for, I think, $65 US plus some shipping from the UK. It's not a cheapo by any means. It's a boutique quality handmade whistle. However, when you compare it to the Chieftain or the other busker whistle that is, the session killers that are in its class, it is inexpensive and it is fantastic. I feel like I should talk about cons. It's really hard for me because I don't have any with this whistle. John made it perfectly in tune. John made it really nice with this nice Delrin block. All of the construction and fitting and the machining in the holes, everything is beautiful. If there was anything about it that I would say looks a little less than amazing, it's just the engraving, Shearwater and the D right here, that John clearly did by hand. A con for any regular beginner would be that this whistle does require a little bit of extra breath and a little altering of playing technique. I've also found that whistles with metal heads do tend to collect some spit and or condensation a little more readily than plastic head whistles, and you do need to warm it up more so than a whistle with a plastic head. All of this needs to come up to room temperature or body temperature or something somewhere in between to really function right. That said, this whistle is perfect for what I wanted it for. I wanted a loud, bright, bird-like tone that would cut through the mix and really stand up in a mix with other instruments. The widebore D that Chieftain makes is called the Session Killer for this reason. I don't think this whistle is quite as loud or quite as shrill, but man, it really stands out in a couple of the recordings I've made when I've played it against some of the other whistles that I have that are even among the louder of my mass marketed whistles. A thing about John, I'm not paid or compelled or inspired really to endorse brands other than I've played them and they either suit me or they don't. However, with John Bushby, I will say he has dedicated himself to really trying to make his customers happy. When I first ordered this whistle, the first thing that happened was I got an email from John asking me, I can do it in this bore or that bore. Do you kind of want these characteristics or those characteristics? And so he communicated with me right up front as to what I was looking for in the whistle that I was trying to buy. I also have an Alto G whistle that I got from John, and it was the same kind of situation. He kind of asked me and guided me through how he would make the whistle and what I was looking for. And I love both of my Shearwater whistles. I wouldn't trade them for anything. I think they're amazing. For other stories about John's interactions with his customers, I know of a few of them. One of them that comes to mind immediately is another whistle player from across the ocean who had COPD or some kind of emphysema, some breathing issues that really affected her lung capacity. And so she was looking for a whistle that had a certain sound that could be made for very low breath requirements. From what I understand, talking to both of them, she had the same sort of conversations with John when he was about to make her whistle. When she got the whistle, it still didn't quite work for her. So she talked with John about it, and John told her, hey, ship it back to me. I'll either make it work for you or I'll make you a new one. From what I understand, this is how John interacts with all his customers. I don't like to just flat endorse a maker, but I can endorse John. He is fantastic. He's a great guy to talk to. He's been through a lot and still manages to stay positive and engaging and friendly, seeks to make his customers happy. Is this a good beginner whistle? Not necessarily, but it was really good for me, especially at an early point in my whistle acquisition syndrome and developing what I wanted to hear, because I knew that the other whistles that I had bought were not loud enough. A lot of them didn't have a bright enough cut and just a hard enough tone. And I wanted to record with rock instruments, big sounding ensemble. This guy totally did the job and really stands out on a couple of the recordings that I've made that I've used it in. I used this whistle in a couple places on my solo album that I released, which is more or less a rock album with a lot of big orchestration and big gritty guitars. So it's not necessarily the best beginner whistle in the sense that it takes a little extra breath requirement, etc. However, it's a pretty accessible, big bore, loud, bright whistle for someone who wants that and doesn't want to pay more. I don't want to go on forever, and it's hard because I can't say enough good things about these Shearwater whistles or John Bushby. I love this thing. This thing just knocked it out of the park for me. The whistle of the week this week is the Shearwater Widebore D. I look forward to seeing you next week when we play something entirely different.